Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today. Wanted to seek your good wishes and your blessings so that we can share some things about Vedic information, Vedic knowledge. And I wanted to thank Lena for showing us and giving darshan of beautiful deities. These are probably the most extraordinary deities I've seen. Radha and Krishna, where Radha's got her hand around Krishna and on his flute as well. So really extraordinary. Thank you so much. Beautiful.
Krishna's mercy.
Very good. So we are going to try to embark on quite a adventure through the Srimad Bhagavatam. A lot of devotees have requested that we start with the Bhagavatam. We were going to continue with recitation of the Bhagavad Gita verses, but we've been overruled. So what I was thinking was we would share a few verses from the Bhagavatam initially, because there are some, the Bhagavatam starts off where the Bhagavad Gita finishes. So Bhagavatam is regarded to be one of the highest scriptures. Even higher, I would say, than the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is like the ABC of spiritual life. And the Bhagavatam is regarded to be the degree level of spiritual life. And then there's the doctorate level, which is the Chaitanya Charitamrita. But we'll look at the Bhagavatam. Let's have a look at some of the verses, just to give you a flavor of the content of this incredible scripture. Okay. Now, oops, can we see this? Nope. Let's see what's going on here. So I was going to ask Shruti, thank you very much for joining. Good. So this is the very first verse of the Srimad Bhagavad Puran, the very first verse. And
Wow.
it's an extraordinary verse. So Shruti, would you like to, I'm just putting you on the spot, of course. I didn't ask you beforehand to.
No, you don't even need to ask.
Oh, good.
You don't even need to ask.
Fantastic.
Ready.
I'm glad you said that.
So, never had an opportunity to properly study the Bhagavatam. So this is like a godsend, literally.
Yeah, it's true. We are very fortunate. I mean, I don't even know what I've done to deserve this, but anyway, it's Lord's mercy. Actually, there's a couple of verses we recite before reciting the Bhagavatam.
Okay.
I'll just do those very quickly because then we can get into the texts here. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatam vyasam tado jayamudiriye nasta prayashu bhadreshu nityam bhagavatasya bhagavati uttama sloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. Srimad Bhagavad Puran ki jai. So, would you like to recite this verse?
Yes, of course, Prabhuji. Just one. I'll just take a moment to
Yes.
That page on my laptop so that it's easier to read.
Of course.
Yes.
And any volunteers to read the English of this verse?
I can read, Prabhu.
Okay, Shyamalini, very good.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Janmadyasya yatonvayaditarataschaर्थेष्वभिज्ञ स्वराट् तेने ब्रह्म हृदय आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयो yatra sargo mrusha dhamna svena sada nirasta kuhakam satyam param dhimahi.
Beautiful, amazing. Thank you so much. Okay, Shyamalini.
Yes, Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Sorry. O my Lord Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes of the creation, sustenance and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge onto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen in fire or land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes temporarily manifested by the reactions of the free modes of nature appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Sri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So you can see that's the first verse. That is the first verse. And it is incredible amount of detail in this verse. And actually this verse is also regarded to be like a Gayatri mantra, very powerful. Satyam param dhimahi. So whenever there is vinimayo and dhimahi in a verse, that almost becomes a Gayatri mantra. So this is, it starts with the Gayatri mantra effectively. Very powerful verse. So that's number one. And Bhaktisiddhanta, Prabhupada as well, Guru Maharaj, they would spend hours and hours just lecturing on this one verse. Such a powerful verse. But we're not going to do that today. Let's move into the second verse. We're going to do 4 verses today, just to give you a flavor of the Bhagavatam. So, Shruti, would you like to continue?
Yes, Prabhuji, just a minute.
This is
Okay.
number 2 now.
Yes, number 2.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Dharma prodhita kaitavotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam vedyam vastavam atra vastu shivadam tapatrayonmulanam श्रीमद्भागवते महामुनिकृते किं वा परैरीश्वरः सद्यो हृद्यवरुध्यते प्रकृतिभिः शुश्रूषुभिस्तत्क्षणात्.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. So, who'd like to read the English? Any volunteers?
I'll do that, Prabhu. Hare
Okay,
Krishna.
go for it, Kaushalya Maharaj.
Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, this Bhagavad Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is really disquenched from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, complied by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So you remember the verse from the Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Dharma Parityajya, give up all varieties of religion. That was almost the last verse, one of the last verses in the Bhagavad instruction. Yeah. And this is where the Bhagavatam starts, rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated. This Bhagavad Puran propounds the highest truth. So this is where the Gita leaves off, the Bhagavatam starts. So this is why this scripture is regarded as so important. So let's do the next verse, which is number 3. And then after this is number 10. And then we'll discuss about the Vedic philosophy.
Okay. Nigama kalpatarorgalitam phalam shukamukhad amritadrava samyutam pibata bhagavatam rasamalayam muhuraho rasika bhuvi bhavukaah.
Beautiful, amazing. Thank you so much. So who would like to read?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Dandavad, I would like to read, please.
Okay, and then I can see Mr. Saha. So Mr. Saha,
Yeah.
you can read the last verse, okay?
Okay.
So, very good. So yes, the Ananda Leela, please.
Thank you. Hare
I haven't heard your voice for a while.
O expert and thoughtful man, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful. Although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. So this is really nectarian because it comes from the lips of Sukadeva Goswami. And we'll see how that happens as we go into the Bhagavatam. So text number 10 is the last one we'll look at. Yes, yeah.
Okay. Nayernalpayusha sabhya kalasmin yuge jana manda sumandamatayo mandabhagya hyupadrita.
So Mr. Saha?
Okay.
Yeah. From here.
Poland one in this iron age of the Kali, men almost always have but short lives. They are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed.
So this is the symptom of age of Kali. And this is why this scripture is so important. This scripture is actually regarded as the literal incarnation of the Lord. Very, very important to, at least once in our life, to have read, studied the Srimad Bhagavad Puran. Okay, so let's stop that. And I wanted to give a little precursor to the Bhagavatam. So we haven't actually started the Bhagavatam in terms of doing the summary of it today. We won't do that. But I wanted to share with you a few things. Why Bhagavatam? What's so important about it? What is it doing? This is an idea of the Vedic literatures. There's a lot of literatures. There's Shruti literatures and Smriti literatures. Oh, can you see this? Yes. Shruti is which is heard. We'll come into that in a little while. They include the 4 types of Vedas, Rig, Yajur, Sama, and Atharva. And the Upavedas, the Vedangas, these are all very authoritative. And then the Smriti also includes things like the Puranas, the Tantras, the ritualistic Shastras, Itihasas like Mahabharata and Ramayana, Saddarshan. And then within those, there's so many different categories. Now, these scriptures are vast, huge, and we'll go through in a little detail in this session all these different types of scriptures, what is in them, just to get a flavor of the whole range of Vedic scriptures. Where Bhagavatam fits in, it's one of the Puranas, but actually it is regarded to be the spotless Purana. Spotless because it deals with the transcendental subjects and it deals with Krishna primarily. The Bhagavatam is regarded to be a natural commentary of the Vedas. Natural commentary means what Bhagavatam says is the absolute essence of the Vedas. These Vedas, all these scriptures, the Vedic scriptures, can be billions of verses. It's really impossible for one person to read all these scriptures in one lifetime. But we don't need to. This is why we have the Srimad Bhagavad Puran. By reading the Srimad Bhagavad Puran, we're actually capturing the whole essence of all Vedic knowledge. So that's why Bhagavad Puran is so important. So what are these scriptures? Let's have a look at a little bit more detail. This presentation is actually, we've done it to like a university standard. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because we don't have that much time. But effectively, we could run a course in university on these slides. But we'll just go through it in little less detail. Vedic scriptures are divided into 2 main categories: Shruti, and that is which is heard, revealed truth. It's revelations and unquestionable truth, which is eternal. That is effectively the Vedas. Shruti means the Vedas and the Upanishads. Smriti, on the other hand, is that which has been remembered. So remember, Shruti is what's been heard, Smriti is what's been remembered, realized truth. It's supplementary to the main Shruti, and it may change over time. Shruti never changes, it stays the same, but Smriti can change. It's authoritative only to the extent that it conforms to the bedrock of Shruti. As long as it's in a conformity with Shruti, then Smriti is acceptable. And it's also derived from the Vedas, such as the Itihasas and the Puranas. They all come from the Vedas, effectively. So where does the Bhagavad Gita fit in? Is it Shruti or is it Smriti? Actually, it's both. Gita is Shruti because it was directly spoken to Arjuna in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So it's been heard. So it's Shruti by Lord Krishna. But because it appears within the Mahabharata, which is Itihas, it's also Smriti. It's history. History has happened in the past, it's remembered, and then it's written down by Vyasadeva. So it falls into both categories. This is the uniqueness of the Bhagavad Gita. So our Vedic science, it's huge, as we can just see. It's got the 4 Vedas. So what are the 4 Vedas? We've got the Rig Vedas. Rig Vedas are primarily hymns of praise to the Devatas, like Indra and Agni and Surya. And the Rig Veda especially is in essence to conduct Vedic ceremonies for attaining material possessions or achieving material needs. And also part of the Rig Vedas deals with the soma juice, which the demigods partake in. The Rig Vedas are also chanted by expert priests who can pronounce the mantras absolutely spotlessly. perfect. If they get it wrong, then that mantra may not give the desired effect, may even give the opposite effect. So these mantras within the Rig Vedas have to be precisely chanted. And one of the mantras, prominent Shuktas, is the Purusha Shukta, which is in the 90th chapter of the Rig Vedas. This Purusha Shukta is the prayer that the demigods recite to Kshirodakshay Vishnu when they go to the ocean of Svetadweep in this material world. But that is when they need assistance. They will go there and seek assistance. So this is really important prayer, and that's in this Rig Vedas. Yajurved, it's the Veda of rituals containing different levels of knowledge and wisdom. It has 109 branches of knowledge, but only a few of those branches are actually found now. They're all pretty much lost. There's only two, there is two Samhitas, this collection of verses known as the white Yajurved, which has the hymns and rituals. The black Yajurved has the interpretations of these hymns. Primarily, they're used by the priest as a guide to do the rituals, the sacred rituals, such as the Ashwamedha or the Rajasuya sacrifice, yagya. Of course, nowadays, there's really probably not many priests who are very familiar with these scriptures. They may be in the south of Bharat because they are so expert, but very, very few will be completely expert in these scriptures. Samaved is the third of the Vedas. Samaved is got lots and it's a Veda of melodies, contains 1,549 verses meant to be used as songs in various ceremonies, primarily for the Udgata priest. And most of these are taken from the Rig Vedas and arranged according to their use in particular rituals. From the original 1,000 branches of Samvedas, 3 are still available. So you can see a lot of these Vedas has been lost. Atharva Ved, the last one, is the Veda of chants. It contains prayers, spells, incantations, which resemble magical instructions found in the Tantras. Atharva Ved contains a small section of verses of instructions, wisdom, and descriptions of the soul and God. But the majority are rules for worshipping the planets or different oblations, sacrifices, averting evil and disease, incantations for the destruction of enemies, fulfilling personal desires. So that's the 4 Vedas mainly deal with material elevation. Right? And since Lord Vishnu is the Lord of material liberation, most sacrifices in these Vedas, all these Vedas, are directed towards the demigods. So we might wonder why. It's to encourage even those who have material desires through the worship of demigods, at least they are worshiping somebody higher than themselves. So that is the idea of this Vedas. It's all encompassing. Why there seems to be so many gods within Vedic culture? Right? There's many times we're asked that question, why are there so many gods in Hinduism? Of course, there is actually only one supreme being, but he has many agents and devatas who assist him in managing the creation. So when these demigods are properly approached with prayer or worship, they may help facilitate the person by granting certain wishes that may be within the jurisdiction of that demigod. Right? Now, these demigods, they're just posts. They're not there eternally. For example, the president or the prime minister in our country is a post. Boris Johnson holds that post at the moment, but he may not in the future, and he did not in the past. So in the same way, the post of Brahma, Indra, Shiva, not the same individual will hold that post. People are promoted to those posts to have certain powers or areas of influence. So these devatas, they're temporary posts, they're temporary positions. So we don't regard them as supreme. They've achieved those posts through accumulating a lot of pious karma credits, and they earn the position of being a particular demigod. So somebody may become an Indra or a Vayu and get this power because of their previous karma. These the Veda says that these devatas, they're not mythological beings. It's not imagination. They actually exist to help the Lord administer the universe. So the main subject of the Vedas, however, is karma kand. Karma kand basically means business. I worship you, you give me something. The karma kand is meant to supply the rituals for purifying our mind and actions in pursuance of our desires. So at least we are approaching somebody above ourselves to fulfill our desires. And it's not merely to live with the intent of acquiring all of one's material wants and necessities from the demigods. The idea of karma kand is to take you to a higher spiritual level. But it gives you the faith by performing these yagyas that when you get something, you get faith. That's the idea of karma kand. It builds your faith in higher nature, higher forces than ourselves. It provides a gradual process of acquiring one's needs and working out one's desires while simultaneously being purified and freed from them. Such purification can then bring one to a higher level of spiritual activity. This is the higher purpose of karma kanda. Of course, in the age of Kali Yuga, we can get very badly lost in karma kanda and miss the whole point of life, which is to attain prema bhakti, attain a high level of spirituality. So if we're not careful in this Kali Yuga, these karma kanda rituals can overtake our life. So we should try to avoid them. And this is what Krishna explains to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. Without this understanding, one misses the point and remains attached to the rituals in pursuit of material desires, which will drag one further into material existence. So it was recommended that people could perform sacrificial rituals to obtain the desires, but they should do that on the understanding that ultimately everything comes from the Supreme Lord. So those who are interested in spiritual knowledge, do they do karma kanda activities? In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna points out men of small knowledge who are given to worldly desires take delight in the flowery words of the Vedas that prescribe rituals for attaining power, riches, or rebirth in heaven. With their goal of enjoyment, they say there is nothing more than this. So Krishna really dismisses this karma kanda section of the Vedas as those who have small intelligence are attracted to that. And Krishna also goes on to say that if you worship a particular demigod, then you will go to that planet of that particular demigod. Whereas if you worship me, you'll come to me. And he also explains, whatever you get from the demigods actually are given by him, Krishna himself, anyway. But, you're worshipping in the wrong way. For one who has begun to endeavor for reaching the supreme goal of Vedic knowledge, the prescribed duties in the Vedas for worshipping the demigods are unnecessary. So Bhagavad Gita places the platform, puts the platform on the basis of, on a spiritual basis straight away, bypassing the Vedic rituals, the karma kanda sections of the Vedas. Okay. So now we can just have a quick look at some of the other aspects of Shruti. There's the Brahmanas. I won't go into too much details. Aranyaks, all different writings to support and supplement the Vedic literatures. Upanishads. We've heard of the Upanishads. There's 108 main Upanishads. There's another 108 semi-Upanishads. So these again give they're a collection of 108 philosophical dissertations explaining further the Vedic literatures. And there's another 100 additional lesser Upanishads. So at least 200 of these. And there's some which are very popular. And Prabhupada quotes these Upanishads many times in his books. They mainly focus on establishing the absolute as non-material and describe it as Brahman. So the Upanishads do not take one to bhakti. They take you up to the level of impersonal realization of God. This is a little bit too much detail, so I'll skip all these points about the Upanishads. Basically, to understand that the Upanishads back up the Vedas. The Upavedas, they are, where are they? Let's have a look at the Upavedas. So we've got the primary Vedas. We've gone through those. We've gone through a little bit in Anakas, Brahmanas, Upanishads. Now we're going to look at the Upavedas very, very briefly. They supplement the Vedas. And there's a whole load of Upavedas. Artha Ved, Dhanur Ved, Gandharva Ved, Ayurved. So they are smaller compositions and they're attached to each of the four Vedas. So they supplement the Vedas. And then the Vedangas, Anga means limb. So these are the limbs of the Vedas. There are 6 in number. And here they are. Vyakaranas, Virukta, Shiksha, Chandas. Again, they act as supplement information to the Vedas, giving further details of the Vedas. For example, Chandas is a science of correctly emphasizing the meter of the Vedic verses. So what this Vedanga does, this Chandas, it describes how one chants the Vedic mantras. If we don't do it correctly, as we discussed earlier, we don't get the benefit. We may get the opposite result of what we want. And it can be quite disastrous. So all of these Vedangas help us to, or help the practitioner to follow the Vedas better. Jyotish, which is astrology, Kalpa. So those are the 6 Vedangas. So I'm not going to go into too much detail because we won't have time. So now we'll go into the Shutras. Oh, hang on. Let's have a look at what that is. So we've done those Shutras. That's going into the Smriti side now. So again, I won't go into any detail because Itihasas we know. Itihasas are the historical facts, like the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. They help explain the rituals of the Vedas and are highly compressed philosophy of Vedanta Sutras are given by the historical events. So this is to help us understand the Vedas. The Itihasas are there to help us understand the Vedas. Mahabharata is one of the biggest Itihasas. Ramayana, 24,000 verses. Mahabharata, 110,000. A lot of what is described in the Vedas is put into practice in the Itihasas. And then we finally come to the Puranas. Puranas are basically, they have 5 subject matters: how the world was created, how it's destroyed, the ancestors and the demigods, the Manus, the solar and the lunar dynasties, and they also describe the incarnations of the Lord. Now, what do the Puranas do? They explain more clearly and completely the spiritual philosophy found in the 4 Vedas. But there are a lot of Puranas. There's 18 secondary Puranas. There's 18 Mahapuranas. And these 18 Mahapuranas are divided into 3 categories: Tamagun, Rajagun, Satagun. Some are dealing with the mode of ignorance, some in the mode of passion, some in the mode of goodness. So we should understand that not all the Puranas are at the same level. For example, Linga Purana, which is all to do with Lord Shiva, is essentially dealing with the mode of ignorance, as is the Skanda Purana. The Agni Purana also deals with mode of ignorance. Matsya Purana also deals with a lot of mode of ignorance. What it does is it takes the reader from the mode of ignorance and places them in the mode of passion, at least. That's what the Puranas does. It gives the opportunity for the practitioner to rise at one stage at a time. So 6 of these, including the Kurma Purana, are all regarded to be in the mode of ignorance, and the Shiv Purana as well. Then we have the Puranas which are in the mode of passion, Brahma Purana, and they've got all different types of subject matters within them. Brahmananda Purana, again, mode of passion. Brahma Vaivarta Purana, mode of passion. Markandeya Purana, mode of passion again. Bhavishya Purana describes the future of mankind. Vaman Purana, also regarded to be mode of passion for its readers. Now we come to the Puranas which are in the mode of goodness. Varaha. In Varaha, there's a discussion between Lord Varaha and his wife, Bhumi Devi. Very important discussion, describes about spirituality in a very deep way. The Narad Puran, mode of goodness, describes again spiritual activities in a very clear way. The other Puranas, they generally will not be so clear on the spirituality aspect. They will take the reader from ignorance to passion, and then passion onto goodness. The Puranas which are in the mode of goodness, they try to elevate the reader into the spiritual world, spiritual knowledge. Garud Puran is another, which is in the mode of goodness. Padma Puran, very, very important Purana. It describes many pastimes of Krishna and in Vrindavan. And it's got so many different aspects of Krishna. And then we have the Vishnu Puran, extraordinary Purana. And then finally, we come to the Bhagavad Puran. Bhagavad Puran is also known as the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam is Srila Vyasadev's own commentary on all the Vedanta philosophy. It brings to light all the different aspects of the absolute truth, but especially the personal characteristics of Krishna as the final conclusion of all Vedic understanding. It does not elaborate on worship of other demigods or on rituals that award various temporary material benedictions, as do some of the other Vedas and Puranas. Therefore, the Bhagavatam completely transcends all other philosophical viewpoints of Vedic literature. So this is why we focus on the Bhagavad Puran. It's regarded to be the highest of all the Puranas. It's regarded to be in the mode of pure goodness. It's beyond even goodness. And that's why Srila Prabhupada spent many, many years translating the Bhagavad Puran. Such an important Puranas. So what I was thinking was next week, in the next few weeks, we will just focus on an overview of the Bhagavad Puran before we actually dive into the chapters, just to understand what we have, what gift God has given us. The purpose of taking you through what the Vedas is to show you the vastness of the Vedas, but how one can get lost in the Vedas and how one can find everything that's in the Vedas through the Srimad Bhagavad Puran, but not everything, but the absolute essence of what is needed for us in our spiritual journey back to the spiritual world. So this is the importance of the Bhagavad Puran. It cuts through all of the jargon, the flowery words, as Krishna explains, of the Vedas, and it gives the absolute essence of the most important thing of the Vedas. So I just wanted to share that with everybody. It's a little technical, and I didn't go through the vast majority of it because it is very technical. But for those who are interested, I will publish these notes, and it's worth going through them just to understand what are our Vedic scriptures and how does Bhagavatam fit in everything that we are studying. Very important to understand, because then one will realize that this Bhagavatam should be our life and soul. Once we start the Bhagavatam, we never finish. We read it again and again and again and again. Never stop reading the Bhagavatam. So are there any questions or any comments? I wanted to stop there and ask if anybody wanted to say anything or ask anything. Have I put everybody to sleep?
Prabhu is so deep, so good, is very deepness, Prabhu.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Why.
It is, it's extraordinary. And has anybody read the Bhagavatam here? The whole Bhagavatam?
Me.
Oh, well done. Fantastic. Well done. Very good, Lena.
Thank you. All Krishna's mercy.
Yeah, for sure. And you're reading it again, aren't you?
I'm reading it the third time now.
Third time. My goodness. Well done. Never stop reading. Is that your philosophy?
Yes, but you're making it sink in. When I read, it doesn't sink in as much as when you preach.
I don't know about that. But this is Prabhupada's blessings, actually. This is
Yeah,
Prabhupada's
but thank you so much.
No, it's a big
I read it, Prabhu, one time and
Okay.
read it again, but maybe some count is miss, like that. Some part,
canto. Yeah.
maybe, but
Right.
most of them up to 10, most of them.
You've read. Very good. Yeah, very good. Anybody else read the Bhagavatam? Indulekamaji, Surinder?
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Prabhu, Nitai Gaur Haribo.
Hari Hari Hari
Surrender
Bol.
is expert.
Yes.
Surrender is expert.
I have read the partly Prabhu, not the whole.
Okay.
But interesting, it's very interesting. Yes, it's good that we are getting opportunity by your grace to listen some Bhagavad Katha. This is very nice.
No.
It is there are 5 spiritual activities has been emphasized by Rupa Goswami Maharaj. Is hearing and chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, holy name, and sadhu sangha, and deity worship.
Yes.
Yes, and reading scripture. So yeah, so it is Bhagavatam is one of the scriptures emphasized by Gauranga Mahaprabhu himself. And then 5th one is living in Mathura, Vrindavan, like that. To
Yes,
our
very
heart,
good.
Invite Vrindavan in our heart, like that.
Very good.
Very nice, Prabhu. Thank you for your grace. Nitai Gaur Hari.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your encouragement. Appreciate it.
Hare Krishna, Nitai Gaur Hari.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Indulekamaji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Reading Bhagavatam is not easy. We can read it 10 times, but every time we will find something new. And you leading us the path It makes it
No.
more easy.
We're all
Yeah.
together, yes.
Yes. So thank you, Prabhuji.
No, thank you.
Nicely explained, but I will try to keep up the pace. Because,
Yeah.
you know,
I mean,
I've been lazy.
I just let everybody know, Indulekha Maji actually writes nice lessons from the Bhagavatam as we're going through it. So we're missing you actually. But
don't worry, I'm working on it.
Yes, of course. No, as you know, as it becomes easy, you try to join.
No, I'm working on it, and maybe by next week, I will
That's
ask
okay.
you for a day.
We'll wait for you for the 10th canto. I'm waiting for you. So don't worry, don't rush, but I'll wait for you anyway.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no questions, we can finish. And Shruti, so Shruti, we'll work out. I want you to do some verses every time, so I'll work out some verses that we do.
Okay.
But at some point, we will do the whole chapters. Probably, I'll see next, just to understand the Bhagavatam, the importance of it is very important, so that devotees don't lose ever the opportunity to read the Bhagavatam.
Also, we can do interaction. You can ask questions.
Yes.
Who have read what and what do you understand? Because understanding is a basic, right? If we don't understand, it's no use going further. Canto 2, Canto 3, Canto 4. The first canto, everything is in there. So we should interact also.
Yeah. Okay. Very good point.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a good weekend. Tomorrow Shruti is gonna talk about one of the most extraordinary temples in the world. Do you want to just give a little hint?
Yes, of course, Prabhuji. So it is my utmost blessing to share the glories of the Sri Ranganatha Swami temple tomorrow. I frequently mention the term Divya Desham in most of our weekly sessions. So the Divya Deshams are a group of 108 temples which have been praised and glorified by 12 greatest Vaishnava saints in a compilation of 4,000 Tamil verses. So this compilation, this entire collection of 4,000 Tamil verses is called the Nalayira Divya Prabandham. So the word Nalayiram indicates 4,000 in the Tamil language. So these 108 temples have been described and glorified and praised in detail in these 4,000 verses. So Sri Ranga is the foremost among the 108 Divya Deshams. As Prabhuji said, it is an extraordinary temple. Photographs do not do justice. It is a massive, massive temple. At this point, I believe, and I have even read that it is the largest functioning Hindu temple in the world at this point. You won't believe it. The temple complex spans 156 acres. 156 acres. There are a total of 81 shrines, 21 temple towers. We'll talk more. We'll talk more in detail about this temple tomorrow. And speaking of Sri Rangam, one cannot withhold, or one cannot not talk about one of Lord Ranganatha. Ranganatha is how the Lord is known in Sri Rangam. So one cannot not talk about Andal, one of the greatest devotees of Lord Krishna. So because she is so inextricably linked with Ranganatha Swami, So we will also talk about who Andal is, who the Arvars are, the 12 devotees, the 12 great personalities who composed those 4,000 verses. We'll talk about who the Arvars are, who Andal is, why she appeared in human form, and how she is related to the temple and the Lord of Srirangam. So I'm
Wow.
very, very excited. So
Hare
let's
Krishna, Hare Krishna. The
Hare
Ranganath temple, that is a village in itself.
Yeah.
It takes us like a
It's a
week
ta-
to visit
it's a
that.
city.
And
Right. Very
yes,
well. It is, yes, as you said, Mataji, it is a village, it's a town, it's a city in itself because
Yeah.
it's so huge. It's
so
massive.
beautiful. And
And it's
the Alvars have done so great work, building those temples, and so really beautiful. We visited, like, we spent a week there, and we knew people who could take us instead of waiting for 2-3 hours in the line to go and have darshan. Still, it took us so long. It's very beautiful, really beautiful.
I recall a similar experience, Mataji. We visited this the Srirangam temple in 2004, and
Mhm.
we remember waiting in line for over, I think, around 4 to 5 hours to have darshan.
Yes,
But
yes.
when we finally were able to have the darshan, we forgot everything. It was all totally worth it. It was so
Yes.
beautiful. And the beauty
Even-
is, though of course now times have changed, but the beauty is in normal days, we are able to see the Lord so up close. It's like you're standing
Yes.
right next to him.
In front of him,
So
yeah.
it's that close. We could see the Lord from those close quarters. It's
Yes.
words fall short. Words fall short. It has the history of the temple. We cannot even imagine traces way back to the Treta Yuga.
Wow.
Yes.
So
And
it is
it's also the story of Lord Ram and Divishan.
exactly.
Divishan, why the Lord is lying down, and Divishan comes every day. Even now, he comes early morning to have darshan.
Yeah.
It's
Vibhishan,
really, words cannot describe the
not-
temple.
I totally agree. Vibhishan Maharaj is considered to be among the Chiranjeevis, or the eternally living
The immortals.
Immortals. So Vibhishan Maharaj, even though he was born in a family of demons, he remained such a great devotee of Vishnu. He did not lose his devotion. So that is reflected even today. So it's beautiful. I can't wait to talk about.
Yes. I'm sorry I won't be able because it's too early for me. Also, the Kaveri River goes around. That is
Yes,
the Srirangam is like kind of an island, right?
Yes. It is like an island. It's a river island.
Yeah.
Srirangam is a river island because it is surrounded by the river Kaveri and one of its tributaries.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the
also,
Kaveri is no ordinary river either. She is among the 7 ancient sacred rivers. There is a very beautiful word. Gange cha Yamune chaiva Godavari Saraswati.
Ah, yes.
So Kaveri is one among those 7 rivers, and she is also called Dakshina Mandakini, or Ganga of the South.
She has got a tributary called the Killing River. Do you know the story?
Sorry, Mataji, could you say that again?
The Kaveri River has got a tributary that is called the Killing River.
The Kollidam, I think, in Tamil. I'm not sure.
I don't know, but in Tamil I don't know. But the story goes that when the king Alwar was building the temple, he didn't have money. So what he did, so many people were working there, and they needed money for their family, to raise their family. So here, what did he do? One day he told his men, he said, take all the workers in the middle of the river and then drown them so that I don't have to pay them. So when they did that, now the workers who were drowned in the river, Their
Yeah.
family members, their wives, their sisters and mother, father went to look for them. And they realized that all of them went to that river. So they all went there. And when they couldn't find their relatives, their sons, their brothers, their husbands, they jumped in the river and they killed themselves. So that is one part of the story of Kaveri River also. We had very nice first time with Bhakti Vikas Swami there. Very nice time we spent. It's really nice. It was like last year we went, yes. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare
Thank you so much.
Krishna. So please do join us. And Shruti, you don't have to cover everything in one go. So take your time. It's amazing temples. So very good. Okay. Thank you so much. Looking forward to that tomorrow. And
Yes, Prabhuji.
hopefully we'll see everybody tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Dandavad.
Krishna, all the devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank